as predicted, last night on this show, Los Angeles, just the tests case, the incubator for the Summer of Love Part 2, the litmus test for what the left has become and what the modern-day Democratic Party now stands for: anarchy, violence, lawlessness, rioting by, in many cases, the worst people in our society. Many of them here illegally, many of them criminals, many of them unemployed, living on the fringes of society, on the outskirts of polite, employed society. And many of them blame you for their awful lot in life. Many blame America, a country they hate to their core. They are only here because America is still the wealthiest nation on earth, and they absolutely adore the free ride that Democrats give them. And it is spreading, just like it did in 2020. Violent protests and riots happening for the first time last night in Denver, Atlanta, Boston, New York, and Seattle, all sanctuary cities, and it's happening again tonight. Gavin Newsom last night trying to look presidential, addressing the people of California with a live address, and this was interesting. He did this just after 7 p.m. local time in California, which Gavin did on purpose because 7 p.m. in California means 10 p.m. in New York, meaning we're off the air, meaning all of the major cable news programs were already off the air in the East, meaning Gavin could say whatever he wants and attack whoever he wants, knowing there would be no one there to criticize him after. Take a look.
This administration is pushing mass deportations, indiscriminately targeting hardworking immigrant families, regardless of their roots or risk. What's happening right now is very different than anything we've seen before. On Saturday morning, when federal agents jumped out of an unmarked van near a Home Depot parking lot, they began grabbing people, a deliberate targeting of a heavily Latino suburb.
New York Times Ipsos poll a couple months ago. 79% of Americans support deportations, 80%. After Gavin Newsom said that, the forever watchful media was quick to defend Newsom. Brian Stelter tweeting offline, in real-world Los Angeles, most Angelenos, a word we've heard way too much of over the last several days, by the way. If you live there, you can say it. If you're in the media, just call them citizens. Okay, Angelenos is something you say if you live there. Most Angelenos are having a perfectly normal day, but online, the fires and riots are still raging. But what Brian doesn't seem to realize is that downtown Los Angeles and places like Beverly Hills are all part of the same city, and this could happen in Beverly Hills at any moment. They looted a Zara store last night and many other places, including a sushi restaurant. They came in and took the cash box out. Meantime, look at this. 1,500 miles away in the city of Chicago, this was the scene last night. A car driving right through a mob of rioters. And this was what one woman had to deal with on her way to work in Los Angeles last night. Again, what you're about to see are the worst people in our society trying to make life more difficult for the best people in our society.
I know, and these people are having their children taken, but what about my kids? Today,
look at this.
Then what happens to my kids? I can't help it. This is what. But you can if you could just move off the van. We're not going to. How is this a peaceful protest if there's nothing to do?
How do you all as white people feel about stopping a black woman from going to work?
Oh no, not work. I care so much.
So you don't care about stopping black people from going to work?
Look at this line that you guys are causing. I'm not causing no problems. I'm not trying to. We're just trying to leave.
That woman works the night shift. She's got to go that way to get to work. That guy said, oh no, not work, because don't forget, none of these people have jobs. They're living off the dole. They're living off the government. This right here was the scene in Atlanta last night, while the media continue to call these riots anti-ICE protests. In fact, if you're watching television and you see a banner on TV that's still calling the riots anti-ICE protests, change the channel immediately because you are being lied to. We said it on Monday night. These have nothing to do with ICE and everything to do with Donald Trump. Anti-Trump raids, that's what they are being called. And they are being funded and coordinated by liberal groups, by a party led by illegal aliens, and the media are still cheering them on every step of the way. This headline in the New York Times: the Mexican flag becomes a potent protest symbol. The Mexican flag represents pride in their heritage. The Post, he's waging war on us as Trump escalates. Angelenos defend their city. And then this right here took the cake for me. Bob Costas, who I never had a problem with, the sportscaster. He's been around forever, eternally youthful, by the way. He decided to weigh in at an awards dinner in New York City a couple days ago. Take a look.
To a certain extent, who he is and what he does and what is done in his name has been normalized so that responsible journalists have to pretend that there's always two sides to this. There really isn't two sides to much of what Donald Trump represents. If someone says, and the idea that you have to find somebody who will not just defend Donald Trump, but valorize it, even on CNN or wherever else, just in the name of being balanced.
Isn't that remarkable? It's beyond the quiet part out loud, and he went to Syracuse. According to Bob Costas, there really aren't two sides to much of what Donald Trump represents. That's what he said. And then he got a big round of applause. 5 months after the greatest cover-up in modern presidential history at the White House with Joe Biden, Bob Costas thinks there aren't two sides to anything that Donald Trump does. Bob Costas thinks there's only one side, his side. And Bob, look, I didn't go to Syracuse. I applied. My mom drove me up there. We toured the campus. I wanted to go to Newhouse because that's the best communication school in the country. I didn't get in, okay? But this narrative that only people who think like you, Bob, and the rest of the legacy media, the narrative that only people who think like you are right is just wrong. And that's exactly why Donald Trump is back in the White House. Bob just doesn't get that. I would have hoped they would have taught him that at Syracuse. Evidently, they did not. Are we perfect? No. Is conservative media always right? Of course not. We get things wrong too. But if we didn't exist, America would only always hear one side of every single story. And Bob just doesn't like that. The truth is that once again, Democrats find themselves on the wrong side of an unpopular cause and the wrong side of history, which we think is worth pointing out. This is all happening in Democrat-run cities. It's not just cities across the country, it's Democrat-run cities, and that's not the Newsmax angle on the story. It's a fact. Every one of these cities in this country where we are seeing turmoil and rioting and violence are cities that are completely run by Democrats. Mayor, governor, city council, all run by Democrats with very few exceptions. Think about that. Cities run by people who are in many cases to the left of the left. And it was the same thing during the 2020 George Floyd riots. But no one feels it's important to point this out. California is not swinging right in the next election. It's not going to happen. We applaud Steve Hilton for running as a Republican, but another Democrat is going to take over for Gavin Newsom, and another Democrat is going to take over the city of Los Angeles after Karen Bass is gone, and another Democrat is going to take over in Boston after Michelle Wu is gone, and it'll be the same with Eric Adams and Brandon Johnson in Chicago. Chicago had one of the worst mayors in history with Lori Lightfoot, and then they elected someone even more radical than her to replace her.
They are absolutely terrified. And look, I remember a few stand-ups ago when I talked about what terrorism looks like. This is it. There should be no question to what our country would look like had the Confederacy won. We're seeing it on full display.
That's Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, a Democrat. Don't forget, Democrats were the party of slavery during the Civil War. And Johnson thinks that's what is happening right now in all of these blue cities, these Democrat-run cities, again, with very few exceptions, is what would have happened to our country if the South won the Civil War in the 1860s. But this is happening because the left has a complete monopoly on the biggest cities in America and a stranglehold on the political machinery in those cities. And when power is that entrenched, when you have a one-party city, you don't have to be competent to serve. You don't have to be smart. All you need is a face, because no matter what happens, the people who vote in that city are going to continue to elect people like you to serve them, or people who are even worse than you. But that doesn't happen overnight. Many of these cities were once led by strong, competent leaders, many of them Democrats. But the slow drip, drip, drip over time and you get what we're seeing today. The biggest cities in America being led by people like Karen Bass and Michelle Wu in Boston and Brandon Johnson in Chicago.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.